Welcome to Pitch It To Me Podcast, a show about the subjective past, present, and potential future of Flesh and Blood design. Today's episode will be about the world premiere, High Seas spoilers, and the latest banned and restricted announcement. You can find us across all socials such as Bluesky and Instagram at Pitch It To Me Podcast.
I'm Joel.
I'm Fuzzy.
And I'm Clark. So guys, this world premiere is pretty fucking crazy, right?
I'm thinking we're back.
Oh yeah. High Seas is looking incredible. Right now, as we record, day one of the world premiere is currently happening. I know that you guys are listening to this on Tuesday after the world premiere, but we are like on the ground floor. Like we were sitting down to start recording, and then the spoiler feed started rolling in. So
Yeah, we
From
got
Fuzzy's
nothing done.
garage, not ground floor of Taipei, but like
Yeah.
we were looking at our spoilers on our laptops and said, guys, as much as we want to just keep watching the stream, let's go record podcast for the people. For
Yes.
the people. For the Pitch It To Me podcast listeners out there.
are we going Southern Gospel on this one?
Hallelujah!
So before we get into it, we want to give a big thank you to all of our listeners, especially any new listeners. I know that we did this already a few months ago when we got back from the hiatus, and it's like, you guys do love us. And we were like getting some slightly better views. We're getting really better views now on our YouTube at the very least.
Yeah,
You guys literally have a crush on us.
we're pretty grateful for the clicks and the views
Yeah.
and the people that like our show.
Yeah, but we also want to remind you guys, we're not just a YouTube channel. We also are on Spotify and a lot of the main podcasting apps.
We should be on all of them because we're on RSS feed.
I can't say literally all of them because I know there's like 30 independent ones that I just don't think I've clicked the button for.
Speaking of supporting our show, we are going to be going to Vegas this year for nationals. And I know what you're thinking. U.S. nationals? Isn't there a lot of drama around how well that event is going to go?
That is what I was thinking.
But I can tell you that all three of us will be there, so it's going to pop off. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, if no one else goes, the three of us will be there.
Holy.
And you know what we'll have? T-shirts, if you want one.
So, with all of our new listeners, we do have t-shirts for sale. Reach out to us on Discord or our email at pitchitomepodcast at gmail.com and order one, and you can pick it up when you see us at US Nats in Vegas.
And when we say order, it's pretty informal. Like, I, Fuzzy,
Yeah.
just have a bunch of these T-shirts in one of my closets.
And he's tracking how many he has.
Yes, it is my job to track how many I have. And I'm so good at my job. But yeah, let me know if you want a t-shirt and I'll make sure to have one. I'll probably bring my whole stack to Vegas. So if you see me, Fuzzy, I'll probably be wearing one of our t-shirts. And yeah, just let me know if you want one and I can hook you up. Mm-hmm. It would mean a lot. We love it. It has got our slogan on the front and it's got our faces on the back. What more do you want?
I mean, you gotta have my face on there.
And you get the other two as a bonus.
True. And listeners, before we get into the main topic of our of the episode, I just want to ask you guys, what cards made you the most excited to play at pre-release? Like, what cards during the world premiere really got you brewing and really got you excited for the very next Flesh and Blood event? Let us know in the comments, or DM us, or send us an email, or send a telegram, whatever.
Is Nimbleism Syndra going to be cracked as fuck now that we have all these synergistic cards? Who knows?
You tell us!
Fuzzy, do today's episode?
So to walk you through what we're talking about today, in Red Pitch, we're going to be drooling about all the new spoilers that we saw today. In Yellow Pitch, we're going to talk about the newly banned and unbanned cards from the banned and restricted announcement. And in Blue Pitch, we're going to be talking about the changes that they're making to the Living Legend system, because we're data nerds, and every time they change the Living Legend system, we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
And of course, after all of that, stick around for our Arsenal Zone, where we each shout out a card that we've been thinking about lately. Mm-hmm. Clark, do you want to start us off with Red Pitch?
I will start us off with Red Pitch.
Holy.
All right, so let's pick a card from the spoiler season and the first day, or at least the first half of the first day of the world premiere. What is everybody's favorite card so far? Fuzzy, let's start with you.
I have always been excited for Gravy Bones more than any other hero in the set. That's not just CC, but also limited. I'm really excited to see how this ally heavy class plays out. And it's because they've streamlined it so much that I don't feel like as overwhelmed. Like every time they have like Illusionist in a draft set, like Enigma, right? With Part the Mistveil, I'm like, I don't think I'm like a good enough player to handle Enigma. I'm so aggro pilled. Like I'm so aggro pilled. Like you put Zen in my hands and limited, and I'm like, yeah, I know how to do this. I just attack. But Enigma is like I have to like play the right allies, and I would lose more games on Enigma, etc. But like Gravy Bones just looks like you play the dudes, and it's up to them whether or not they attack the dudes. I just block them out, and then I get to keep my dude. You know.
Funny enough, that's how it also worked with Enigma's wards.
Yeah, but they have one choice. They just go balls to the wall, right? Anyway. So I've been really excited for Gravy Bones cards in this set, specifically more than the other two heroes. And I'm really having fun looking at all the different ways that they've been able to iterate on his play lines, because we need to get cards in the graveyard. We can do that by using his hero ability, discarding and drawing, or we can use effects such as Blood in the Water. Blood in the Water is a 0/4 Pirate Necromancer defense reaction. When it defends, you may discard a card or destroy the top card of your deck. And if that card has Watery Grave, this gets +2.
0/6 D-React is pretty fucking strong.
Well then, even if you take into account that like going from the top card of the deck to the graveyard is actually like card advantage, positive, right?
Yeah.
Not only is it a 0/6 D-React when that happens, I also get another card going into my graveyard with Watery Grave that basically increases my hand size, right? It's like that second arsenal zone that other classes can have access to. Gravy's second arsenal zone, or second hand, whatever you'd want to call it, is his graveyard. So putting extra cards into our graveyard gives us more options, more power, more pressure, more tempo. But this card does it while blocking for 6 for free.
Yeah.
Very powerful. And if you don't hit that Watery Grave off the top, okay, I'll just block for 4.
Yeah, it's still really good at base as a Majestic. Now, it also looks like they're doing a suite of like commons with a similar effect, or maybe rares with a similar effect.
And I'm really excited to play with those in Limited.
Yeah, I also really like how you can almost get an extra card in hand, provided that you're able to play it immediately out of graveyard on that turn.
And it's a good way to reward the player for drafting a lot of these Watery Grave allies.
Or just Watery Grave cards. Don't forget, there are Watery Grave cards, which I think is a good segue to the card that I want to talk about, which is Ruby Amulet.
Take it away, Clark.
Ruby Amulet is a blue 0-cost generic item that has Legend of the Watery Grave on it. So it's a legendary card, you can only run one of it, and it has Watery Grave. I kind of like how they've combined the two keywords into this really cool phrase, Legend of the Watery Grave. One, I like that, because it's extra flavor, and I want more flavor on my Flesh and Blood cards. I am a heavily spiced man.
You want those tasty, tasty cards.
Those tasty, tasty cards. But Ruby Amulet has a very common effect that we have seen before, because it is essentially a copy of Energy Potion. In that, as an instant, you can break it and gain 2 resources. Wait a minute, that's just Energy Potion. So this is just Energy Potion. But I think it's so interesting how making it Legend of the Watery Grave makes it slightly more impactful and actually does a lot of unique and interesting things to the game. Our mind immediately went to, hey, now you can play Energy Potion with Go Again from your graveyard as Gravy Bones. That's its like intended purpose. And I already talked about how nice it is to have blues on demand that can go to graveyard with these potions, but now we get to play them with Go Again. Sounds like a fix to me. It's a non-block we can get out of our hand with this a hero ability. Like, it circumnavigates a lot of the issues with running items in Gravy Bones. So I really like that element of it. But then there's just also the fact that, like, for Kano or for decks that like these specific potions, you can run one more copy. And so for Kano, that's really nice at providing a little bit more consistency, which I know some people kind of balk at. It's like, whoa, why are we giving Kano more consistency? But I've heard a lot of complaints that Kano is too random right now. That it just feels bad when you get comboed. But if comboing is a little bit more consistent, then maybe people might not complain as much. And instead it's like, well, I got Kano'd and that's what Kano does, right? So the deck goes from Casino Kano to just Kano. And I think that's interesting, that making the deck better could actually create a healthier play experience in the community.
That's a pretty radical take when you phrase it like that.
Yeah. And it's really interesting how they were able to do this without adding like a whole new 3 copies of a card.
Yeah.
Right? They're able to essentially say, hey, what if some decks could run 4 of this card instead? And I think that's really cool, and they found a cool way of doing it. It's a really interesting game design choice. So that was the card that interested me. Joel, what about you?
So my card is quite a bit more goated and specifically targets items.
Oh no, my Ruby Amulet!
Yep, you can run 4 all you want. It's getting destroyed because I'm running 3 copies of Bam Bam, which is a new brute attack action. It's yellow pitch, 3 cost, 3 block, 6 power attack that says, when this hits a hero, destroy an item they control.
Wait, not random?
Not random.
I don't need to roll a dice?
Nope.
Let's fucking go!
I mean, you can roll a dice if you want, but you don't need to for this card. And then it says also, instant, discard this, and your club attacks this turn gain. When this hits a hero, destroy an item they control.
Holy shit, dude, we're so fucking bad.
Oh, also a bit... So, originally I liked this card because, you know, you have to block the club if you have items on the field. But also, as an instant, you can intimidate with Rhinar before they even get the chance to block. So it creates that on-hit first so they know about it, but it might take away a blocking card and leave them with items in hand.
Yeah, like if the items aren't blocking, like Intimidate's probably going to be really punishing even up front, because if you banish their blocking card and all they're left with is a non-blocks. It also works really well with Barraging Beatdown, which is what people are already running in Club Rhinar. So if you're intimidating up front with the Barraging Beatdown, you're probably going to intimidate with the Bam Bam up front as well, in order to guarantee that they can't block with 2 cards. And it's devastating when that happens.
How many clubs do we have? Is it just Romping Club?
And Bone Basher.
Bone Basher?
Put some respect on Bone Basher.
I wasn't aware of your game, Mr. Bone Basher.
And Ragged Roller.
Yeah.
You can only attack with this.
No, that one doesn't exist.
This 1 for 6 club, but you have to have rolled a 6 on a die.
So anyways, that's the card that I was really excited about because Fuzzy has been giving me the inside scoop of the Rhinar Discord, and everyone's really jazzed about Club, and this is an insane boon for the Club enjoyers.
I also just like how LSS is finally being like, I think putting random on a brute card just makes it worse.
Yeah, there's someone over there snapped and finally figured it out.
Yeah, they were just like, oh, the word random makes it worse.
All I have to say is if you're excited about this cool brute support, join the club. Get it? The club. Join the club.
So this is Fuzzy's last episode, actually, with the podcast. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, obviously so many more cards to talk about. There's like a whole like nimblism synergy that they've been putting in the set.
Oh, yeah.
There have been these high tide commons and rares that are really exciting to me. The yellow HMS cycle. Again, more flavor. This set seems so jam-packed with it. LSS is growing so much because I was really disappointed with how little there was in Rosetta and Hunted. But man, it looks like they're knocking it out of the park in this set. So much more flavor text. So many more cycles. They're also doing this really cool thing where, like, rares aren't rainbow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
More color-locked rares.
More color-locked rares. There's so much going on in this set. We can't wait to talk more about it in a future episode. But for now, I think we want to move backwards in time and discuss the most recent BNR that happened. Fuzzy, I'm going to pass it over to you in Yellow Pitch. What do you got for us?
So the latest banned and restricted announcement made a lot of changes to not just Classic Constructed, but also Blitz, Living Legend, and Commoner. I think we're most excited to talk about Classic Constructed. So for you Fringe format enjoyers out there, please forgive us if we talk very briefly about your favorite
Fuzzy.
format.
We are the Fringe format enjoyers.
But I think these Classic Constructed changes, there's three very distinct ones that I think we can talk about that are going to have a big impact on the game and show how LSS is growing as designers too. Let's start with Germinate and Scepter of Pain together. So they banned these two cards from Florian that were pretty near the top of the meta. It was looking like Rune Stacking Florian was going to be the deck to beat when it comes to the upcoming national season. But they kind of said in their banned and restricted announcement that Florian was kind of similar in power level to Aurora, they felt, when looking at their data. But Aurora had a lot more frequency, a lot more popularity, and that led to her getting a lot more Living Legend points. Florian, not quite as popular, but he's at the top of the meta now, and they were like, we should make an adjustment, especially because there's a cool expansion slot thing that we now know is Everbloom Life.
Mm-hmm. Which would let you essentially cycle any Germinates that are in your graveyard as a card by itself.
So by banning Scepter of Pain, they've really eliminated Runestack Florian as an archetype from the meta. That was one of the main pieces that was making it work, is Channel Millennium Tree and Scepter of Pain. And by banning Germinate, they took away one of his late game options. And Florian is still a really good late game hero, right? Mm-hmm. One card swinging for 2 Arcane and 3 with Reaping Blade and Grasp of the Arknight is really fucking good. And he still has other late game options, like Channel the Millennium Tree is still pretty good at getting that reach late game, finding that last few bits of damage to finish people off. So Florian's still probably a pretty good deck. It looks like people are probably just going to pivot back to mid-range Florian, and he's probably not going to be the top dog anymore, which puts us at a really open meta,
Provided that High Seas doesn't completely and radically change everything, which it will.
Yeah, it's an open meta going into a new set.
Yeah.
So it's a really open meta. A lot of the times when we start those resets, we look at what's popular right before, but we don't even really know that, right?
We do.
Who do you think is at the top right now?
New Azalea.
Azalea?
Because those were the number 2 and number 3 decks consistently throughout the PQ.
Okay.
Well, I would say New was consistently the deck right below Florian and Aurora the entire season, every single week. She was behind those two decks. So, New isn't going anywhere.
Although, moving on to our next piece of ban is Count Your Blessings.
Thank fucking God. Took you long enough.
Also, specifically why they said they banned it, right? I am going to pat myself on the back here and say that, I feel like I was somebody who acknowledged the impact that Count Your Blessings had at local metas and on local scenes and average players in a way that didn't impact pro players, and how the distinct difference of how it impacted these two different communities was an issue. And that was exactly one of the points that LSS mentioned as to why they banned the card. So I am very happy that I had a good read on that problem with the card. I know it's weird to be happy about being this is a problem, and then it was a problem, but for me, as someone who is constantly trying to evaluate and analyze LSS, it's nice to know that some of my thoughts have good grounding.
Sure, yeah. Especially when we step in front of a microphone and put our thoughts out into the public all the time.
Yeah.
It is kind of nice to know that we have a somewhat of a good handle on the way things work.
And I think that they were okay with Blue CYB being gone. They knew they were going to print a bunch of anti-CYB, and we have seen some anti-CYB cards revealed in High Seas. Things turning graveyard face down, banishing instants from graveyards. So there is some really good anti-CYB hate, but at the end of the day, every single hero that they ever designed and every single card that they ever designed, they had to be okay, how does this interact with the CYB version of this hero? And it just created way too many variations, it seemed like. It was untenable for them to test CYB.
Yeah, I love how they wrote up about that in the article. Not only do they have to test a wide variety of heroes with CYB, but those testing games take longer than normal testing games because they're always hour-long games. So it just blew up their testing time. And they, as a company, if they wanted to create better product, by trimming CYB as a variable, like it really gives them a lot more time to focus their resources on other things, which is kind of really interesting, you know? Like, I don't think that's necessarily a factor that we think of when we're imagining, like, how does LSS's testing process go?
Yeah.
The third piece of change that they did to Classic Constructed is they unbanned Bonds of Ancestry, one of the most notorious cards to ever hit the Classic Constructed format, giving you a 0 for 4 go again, grabbing another 0 for 4. Pretty dang good.
Mind you, I think the biggest problem with this card was always Art of War, because then you would just, like, when you set up enough bonds, you would just fucking 0 for 5s your opponent to death.
Yeah.
That's what made Zen really strong, because even Katsu used it to great effect with like 9 or 8 bonds or whatever, but he wasn't breaking the game with it. And losing Art of War, I think this card is a lot more balanced. And Clark, I think you were actually really happy, or not happy, but your concession was that at least it's treated as a majestic this go around as compared to a rare.
Bonds, in terms of raw power level and what it allows in the game, is majestic. And I think Bond should have always have been a majestic in terms of its ability. The flashiness of it, the creativity of it should have always been a majestic. Maybe in Limited, it made sense for it to be a rare, but in Classic Constructed, it should have always been a majestic.
So now Katsu players get to play around with their 3 copies of Bonds of Ancestry. And while Clark is a little bit traumatized still from when Bonds of Ancestry was running around.
Well, I want to make it clear, yes, I was. And Katsu does, with Retrace the Past, now have access to, once again, these ridiculously long combat chains of insane anthemed cards, because now they all have combo, and Ancestral Harmony still exists. But I'm less concerned with the strict power level of this card, though I still think it is objectively an overpowered card. I'm less concerned about it making Katsu like a tier 1 going to dominate everybody and destroy everything. That is not what I've been concerned about with Bonds, because even when Katsu had access to all the Bonds in Art of War, he wasn't running the meta. I was beating you with my Levia. It's not like it's the strength. It's the design of the card. I think the design is inherently broken insofar as any combo deck now needs to be a Bonds deck.
Yeah.
It is reductive to the ninja class. But hey, until they start doing more things, until they improve on combo design, have your Bonds. Have a playable hero. You deserve it.
And they also attached one of the more interesting payoffs in the game in Ninja to Bonds of Ancestry in the form of Dishonor. If I want to remove your hero ability, which is a very specific counter tool that they gave to Ninja, I have to run Bonds of Ancestry to have access to that. So by tying a really cool like meta implication to Dishonor to Bonds of Ancestry, it kind of wraps that whole up. Like they are removing something really cool from the game when they get rid of Bonds of Ancestry as a side effect. So anyway, so I think it's kind of cool that we got Bonds of Ancestry back for Katsu. I think he really needed it, and we'll see how it goes in the future. LSS is like, we might take it away again in the future. Don't get too comfortable. I'm like, okay, LSS, I promise I won't get too comfortable with the Bonds of Ancestry. Just give me the card.
Again, the moment that they fix combo design, goodbye Bonds.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
But let's move on to talking about some of the changes in other formats. Starting with Blitz, they banned Channel Lightning Valley, Count Your Blessings, Flicker Wisp, and Storm Striders.
Gas.
Healthy bans. I think all of these are great.
Storm Strider should have been gone a long time ago.
It was. They banned it, unbanned it, and now they have banned it again.
Yeah, they have been so finicky about nerfing Wizard and Blitz, and it's just not healthy. Keep it banned. It's fine.
Yeah. Because it was banned when Kano and Icelander were in the format. They could do crazy things with it because they were good heroes already. And now, like, Verdance and Blaze are also, like, using it. Verdance isn't even really, like, doing crazy combos. She's just using Storm Striders.
Yeah.
It really is, like, Storm Striders is the powerful card that can win games, like, practically on its own in Blitz. And they're like, okay, let's do other things. CYB being banned for similar reasons. Channel Lightning Valley and Flicker Wisp being banned to hit Aurora.
I've heard Aurora was doing really disgusting things. I mean, not like she wasn't doing it in CC, but doing it with half the life and A lot of the good heroes that counter her were already gone. Like Oldhim, I think, would have been a good counter for her.
Yeah.
Jarl doesn't exist. Florian doesn't have nearly the amount of time to, set up big rune chant stacks against her.
Yeah. It's also just like, I think any time that you look at a combo existing in the game that can deal more than 20 to 30 damage, it's always going to be healthier in CC than in Blitz.
Yeah.
Right? Because in Blitz, you just have half the life, so that combo is already presenting lethal. I think Flicker Wisp probably wouldn't have been banned if we were still in, like, a Rhinar meta.
Yeah.
Because Rhinar can also just sort of throw 18 Quad Intimidate and then just be like, do I draw the Reckless Swing? But I think with the Blitz format getting healthier because Chain is gone, because Rhinar is gone, because Briar is gone, the format has inherently kind of slowed down.
Yeah.
Aurora was speeding it back up to those old levels, but I think they are happier with Blitz when it is a little bit slower than that. Still fast. Still faster than normal. Aggro still does better, typically. But it was of an older era.
Yeah.
The level of speed and individual output on a single turn.
Yeah, if you're new to the podcast, Fuzzy Clark and I started off at an LGS that played primarily Blitz armories for a very long time. So a lot of us have a lot of reps with like the
Kasai and Chain.
most unhealthy Blitz has ever been. Full power, everything. They didn't ban shit in that format.
Well, Prism and Viscerai were gone by the time that we started playing, at least.
Yeah, there were still problematic heroes. Like those were obviously like the worst, but there were still a lot of really strong stuff. So this sort of change makes me want to play Blitz more or try it out again because they're obviously trying to improve the new player pathway. You know, that's where people are going to take their first strike decks, their remnants of the Aurora Armory deck. So this change is very welcome, I think, for a lot of people.
You're making me so nostalgic, Joel.
Yeah.
Like, I was such a different player back then, just playing Blitz and trying to play Kano at like a Blitz armory and
I
feeling
remember
like
that.
so cool, but like there were other people bringing Kano and I would lose the Kano mirrors. Like, I can't go back. Like, time only goes forward, man.
Also, at PT London, I did 2 Blitz events, did very well on my Florian, and I really enjoyed playing Blitz. Like, it was a very enjoyable experience that I did not think I would like as much.
And one of our locals, Dragon, he consistently goes to a store near us, Kingslayer Games, Lake Forest, shout out. They only do Blitz armories as well, and I've heard very good things about that event, even without these bans, I should say.
So, happy to see these changes in Blitz. Let's go on to Commoner while we're talking about young hero formats. Now, in Commoner, they banned Reality Refractor, which I think is such a good change to Commoner.
Yeah.
I know that, like...
It was nearly all of top 8 at PT London.
Oh, yeah. That card was, like, so dominant. They banned all the good weapons except this one. So now, like, it just got even stronger than it already was.
Yeah, they are juggling quite a bit of formats right now. And I think with the highlight of Project Blue, like Commoner being a really... or has a lot of spotlight on it, this ban just makes a lot of sense. Good job.
I think it's interesting that, like, you bring up Project Blue, because I feel like Project Blue almost overshadows Commoner. All the people that were excited for Commoner, but didn't have anyone to play with them, now everyone's excited about Project Blue, and they can kind of go in on that.
Yeah.
And there are more Project Blue, like, play groups forming.
Yeah, I say that, I guess, in the sense that because Project Blue is not at these larger events and is not supported as an armor yet, Commoner is like the next best thing.
But it's a good ban. I mean, when it's pretty much the entirety of a top 8, that isn't reflecting a healthy meta.
Yeah. Very happy to see it. Moving on to Living Legend, they banned Carrion Husk and Crown of Seeds. They restricted Coal and Deadwood Dirge and Succumb to Temptation to 1 copy each, and Hypothermia is now unrestricted.
So they were having some really big issues with Runegate Chain, obviously.
Especially as people tuned the list,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't think Runegate Chain was a problem, but then months pass, and the decks just got better and better and cleaner and cleaner.
It was a thing for a while, and I think Rosetta was the tipping point. It just got so many good tools.
That's a fun trading card game,
it wasn't
right?
a thing until Rosetta.
No, it was. 100%.
Well, Deadwood Dirge really helped it, right?
Yeah, I agree. Deadwood Dirging your Soul Shackles. But ever since Vincent was a thing, they were experimenting with that, especially in Blitz.
Crown of Seeds now being banned in like every format, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people were kind of hoping that with Living Legend and Blitz using Crown of Seeds more, I think people are hoping that with this data they're getting, maybe they like unban it in CC. But if it's banned in Living Legend, it's most likely never coming back. At least that's the consensus.
Yeah. Carrion Husk. They just can't let Levia win.
I mean, if they ban it in CC,
It's a Levia ban, bro.
Yeah.
Like they're not. I'm joking, of course. This is a chain ban to negate like the first CNC that comes at you.
It's funny to see Hypothermia unrestricted. I do not play LL, but as an aggro player, I'm so in fear of that card. Like Hypothermia. Okay, I guess I won't be playing LL. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I mean, Icelander can now instant speed Hypothermia again, so
Yeah.
that's cool. Not playing that format.
I mean, but here's the thing. They want people to, because with these Living Legend banned and restricted changes, it is the third format at Worlds.
And they're also putting it in more events like Skirmish Season, right?
No. Like, they're moving it out of just Skirmish Season, is what people are saying. Like, they're making it a bigger part of, like, maybe even, like, PQ seasons, maybe.
Oh, fuck no.
Actually, no, that might have just been a rumor or a possible thing.
You can expect more Living Legends events on the calendar, including the format's first inclusion in a ProQuest season.
Yeah, they are trying to make this modern rather than legacy. Is sort of the big point that you hear everywhere. I know. And here's why I kind of don't like it. There's no Living Legend. There's no Living Legend system for this.
Oh.
You can only control it through bans and restrictions. That is the only way that you can influence this at all.
And I thought that was like the point of the format. You play the broken shit that's banned in CC.
Yeah, and
You can
now
still do that.
but you also can't.
Yeah.
Because now they also have to ban it here if it's too powerful here.
Like Crown of Seeds.
Yeah. Like, it feels like it's going against the spirit of Living Legend. And there is another influence that I kind of don't like about this, which is going to take testing time away from Classic Constructed, Blitz, Commoner, and whatever the hell Project Blue will end up being.
So you're saying that as it becomes a more real format that's included in more higher level events, that LSS is going to have to spend more of their design time, balance time, focusing on Living Legend.
They explicitly said that they will. They said we are going to spend more time testing and changing it and getting it in line to be a more real format.
Well, maybe the budget doesn't come from other formats so much as it comes from CYB. Now that CYB is banned.
Yeah. But like in a very similar reason that CYB was banned because it was taking so much testing time, this is going to take a lot of their testing time. I'm just a little concerned about all of that. But I know that there are people out there who absolutely adore this format. I just don't know them or see them. I don't see the podcasts where they laud how much fun Living Legend is and how incredible and competitive it is. I see a lot of people doing nostalgia with it, right? Like, oh, I was a Chain player and I get to play Chain again and I like doing that. And a lot of those people are competitive players, but like I don't see the demand for Living Legend for it to be like this. So I'm wondering, why is this happening? Why even add a third format to Worlds?
It's a good question. I think while the culture might not be there right now for Living Legend to be this like really sick second format, maybe they just really want there to be another awesome format other than Classic Constructed, and this is how they do it. They're like, look, learn to love it, and we will, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe this was a response to the Aurora LLing too fast, of like trying to create a real format for all those players.
But that does lead us into our next section in Blue Pitch. Joel, you're going to tell us how our Living Legend system for Classic Constructed has had some interesting changes lately.
Yeah, so for Blue Pitch today, I'm going to be talking about the changes in the Living Legend system, specifically the multiplier change to how heroes gain Living Legend points.
So how does that work?
So the changes are as follows. In Blitz and Classic Constructed, heroes during their first year of legality will have the living legend points that they earn be halved. And in the second year of legality, there will be no multipliers. So if they get 3 points for pro quest, that's what they get. And then in all other years of legality, so after the second year mark, every living legend point that a hero earns will be multiplied by 1.5. So this change implies two things. They want to reduce the amount of points that heroes, especially aggro heroes that sort of dominate the release of a new set, and how many points they receive, and also help usher out the older heroes so that the sets in the pipeline like Monarch 3, Welcome to Wrath, or Welcome to Wraith 2, or Arcane Rising 2 can be ushered in, I guess.
You know, I didn't think of this as like specifically for aggro heroes. I was thinking of it specifically as just for like new heroes. Like they don't want new heroes LLing too fast. But you're right. Typically when a new hero dominates, it's because they're aggro.
Yeah, and we've talked about the podcast, we've talked on the podcast extensively about how aggro decks are the decks that push the limits of the format and make everybody else sort of respond to them. That's just been the trend since we started this podcast as well.
So and they're very fun.
They're extremely fun to play.
Especially appealing to newer players.
Yeah, best way to teach people the game, and best way to do well at a tournament if you're just starting out, yeah.
Especially a newer aggro deck rather than an older one because they have easier access to the cards.
Before I go on my spiel, do we like this change? Yes, no?
I'm generally positive about it, but I do think it has like some culture implications to the way that we treat heroes in the game, you know? I could go to large rant or I could end it there.
Let's keep it short. We got a lot to go through of this. I am also generally positive about these changes.
I think overall, this is a good way to get the older heroes out of the format, which is cool. So I like that part. I think for the most part, this change is way overdue. I think we've always known that the Living Legend system needs to be tweaked in some way because we saw several examples of heroes getting 400 to 600 points within a couple months, and then either drastic bans happened or another set release happened, and sort of the next best aggro deck dwarfed the previous offender. But it's a little hard to predict how you need to tweak the Living Legend system. So I think this is the first time they've ever really changed how a hero accumulates points outside of the amount of points total in a season. So I think that's pretty interesting. That they're trying to improve upon the system before saying, oh, it's a lost cause, so to speak.
I think it's interesting that because newer heroes tend to be more popular, LSS is really letting go of control of how many points are given out in a given season or year.
Yeah.
Because it used to be, at least the past couple of years, LSS has been like, we're going to plan ahead, kind of. Our goal is to have this many callings, this many battle hardens, so they can run a spreadsheet and figure out how many points are going into the system in general. But now there's a little bit more dynamism to it. Because of the way that players play, depending on who wins events, it will impact how many points are put into the system in general. But they're hoping it'll smooth out over time. So that way, like, generally heroes are going to stay in the format for at least a year or two, and then generally rotate out after that. So it's no longer like how many points are in the system. It's way more of an individual journey. Like, it could be like literally 60 to 70% of the points are now given out. Like, we could lose like 30% of the normal points. Or it could be that like a lot of older formats get popular and suddenly like lots of heroes are rotating it out. It's very dynamic now.
Yeah, before it was much easier to predict the rate of which new heroes come in and old heroes and those heroes leave, right? It was so much easier to see how the roster of heroes would change from set to set, from season to season, and now you cannot predict that as easily.
But also, like, you can, because you know that older heroes are going to rotate faster and you know that newer heroes are going to rotate slower. It's like a weird shift.
Yeah, and also, like, a lot of the heroes that have taken a while to LL, it's not because the points that they've been getting have been minuscule. It's that they have some type of design flaw that is just yet to be corrected. So when they eventually get to those heroes, they can rotate them out, print new ones, so on and so forth. And however, the biggest thing I want to talk about to you guys, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Ultimately, I'm a little worried that this change will allow LSS to be a bit more hands-off or a bit less strict with tempering their new designs for newly released heroes. And mind you, this is a bit of a doomer take, so take this with a grain of salt. And we haven't seen any of the new designs for like the set after this change or any of the sets in 2026. But based on what we've seen from other creators that have digested this change and sort of come up with theories as to what would happen if we went into Rosetta with this change already in place, I think the meta and the Living Legend landscape would be completely different with this change. And I think a lot of people are a little upset by that. And I'm going to shout out the card guys and specifically Josh Lau, who put together this chart of basically every hero with their points that they've earned with the multiplier that they would have under this new system and how many heroes would have LL'd and how many heroes would have not LL'd.
Like, I know Azalea would have already LL'd if this was the case. And I know that all the Mistveil heroes would still currently be legal if this was the case. Both of the Rosetta Rune Blades would be way lower on down the ladder if this was the case. So yeah, much different looking metas, and you can still cast this back. One thing that we said in a conversation recently was that they essentially already made the 0.5 change at one point in history, which was going into part the Mistveil, where they dramatically reduced the amount of points that you could earn from major events.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? PQs went from 5 to 3. Worlds went from like 300 to 100. Pro Tours went from 200 to 100. It was like they had already applied the 0.5 diminisher. And you saw, I know I mentioned it a few times on the podcast, how it was very frustrating how KO got this massive bulk of points because he played when there were just more points to be given out and he was top of the meta when that was around.
Right.
And now going in the Mistveil, this set that they want to be extra powerful, but we can't let him leave at the same rate that KO could have. So we got to reduce the amount of points. And now it feels like they're doing that again, but now for everybody moving forward.
Right.
I like how it is for everybody now. It feels a little bit less like they just wanted favoritism for that one specific set, those specific heroes, that specific market. And now it's more like this was something that we were always kind of looking to do. So I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
But you can kind of think about how we've already seen that almost happen once before, at least in terms of the point reduction.
I have so many random little thoughts about these changes. I think it's also interesting how it extra incentivizes players to pick up heroes that are newer compared to heroes that are older. Katsu just got Bonds. I'm telling you, he's fun as fuck. But if you start picking up Katsu and taking him to events, he's going to LL faster. So the investment that you make into these older heroes, you are going to get less return on it, less time with that hero, assuming that they like are picking up some pro quests here and there, and they're going to hit their LL eventually, but sooner eventually compared to older eventually.
Yeah, I wonder if that's bad for armory decks. Because armory decks can sit on the wall for a pretty long time. A new player will go in and say, that one looks cool. And then it's like, well, they get good. Gone pretty quick.
If it's 2 years old, right? They can kind of solve that by like...
I mean, Bolton and Azalea are 2 years old.
That's very true.
Max is about to be 2 years old.
That's a really good point. I do agree for the most part that these products themselves will be a lot worse because the hero themselves will be LL'd. But correct me if I'm wrong here, outside of Aurora with Arc Lightning, I don't think any of the heroes have extra specializations within the armory deck.
Not specializations, no. And of course, they would always be playable in Living Legend. So, like, there is still, and with Living Legend become a more playable format, like we discussed in Yellow Pitch, it seems like there is still a pipeline for if and when that happens.
Yeah,
I like Skizix in all the Briar builds that I build for our fucking Crucible. Those are so fun just to jam.
Exactly. Like, because of the way that Living Legend exists and how it promises that there will always be somebody to replace that specific combination of class, talent, and whatever the fuck, the armory decks are a bit better or are a bit more salvageable in that way. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And ultimately, I do think that the plus multiplier, because right now the main conversation online is that people are fine with the point reduction, I think because of recency bias and Aurora, and they're kind of ignoring how all the Mistveil heroes would still be legal, and people would be like, oh my god, another season with these fuckers at the top?
Yeah, going back to Joel's concern, I think if I was reading their article correctly, they're, with this change, they're having a soft promise that like they're going to be more active on their ban lists. And again, if I read that correctly, I think the banning of Germinate and Scepter of Pain is their way of showing their intentions with the constructed format. Like, we are going to be a little bit more proactive on our banning now, and if you don't trust LSS for whatever reason, that's okay, but I think that is their intention. They do want to like stop letting heroes like Zen and Aurora be so dominant for so long.
Yeah, we didn't talk about this in Yellow Pitch because that was already full enough, but in the BNR article, LSS did say, we want to be more proactive with your bannings. But you're already doing a point reduction. If you're already doing a point reduction, why do you need to also ban aggressively? They can be strong and not get as many points. It feels like they're like putting a double layer of protection on what happened to Aurora when maybe only one would have been necessary.
Yeah, and I think for me, I have heard the phrase "we're going to do more bans more often" several times in many transformational living legend heroes transcending to living legend, to transformational bans like the book burning. I think this one's pretty relevant, like the whole scepter ban or whatever. It's just they haven't done it unless something has gone so wrong. So if this is the first of many bans that they're going to do for problematic heroes, fine. But we've heard this before, and they've shown time and time again that they would rather let people try to counteract the meta, which is good. I think a lot of people would agree that it is LSS's best interest to not be so like swift with the bans, because then it's like it takes away a lot of the player agency in figuring out metas.
Yeah, let us figure it out.
Right. But there are just problematic cards that have existed for a long time that have gone ignored for a very long time. And until they start targeting those more frequently, I think we're just going to have the same issue where not enough bans until it's too late, or some heroes, even with the reduction, get too many points. So we'll see.
I don't know, more BNRs and saying that they're going to be more aggressive with bannings. I mean, I know where you're coming from here, Joel, which is that you have the history of having heard this before, and it didn't make the impact that you thought it was going to. So now they're saying the same thing that they said earlier, but no, this time there will be the impact that we said there's going to be. And you're like, well, is there?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a counterpoint to what I was saying. I'm saying, hey, if you're going to be doing more bans, you don't need the point reduction because you're just going to ban them so that they earn less points. And you're like, no. They'll still miss things.
Yeah.
Having both is still good.
Yeah, and I apologize. I wasn't trying to like dispute what you were saying.
No.
That's just sort of what I was feeling, and also like it could go either way very easily. Like it's a problem. It's a situation that'll become more clear with time. So I'm willing to like see what they actually do before dooming.
I have one more gut reaction to these changes. And that's that as somebody who especially lately has been playing older heroes, I love the idea of the like prestige list, what do they call the roll of honor, being shorter. Because then it feels more special.
Yeah.
When fewer heroes are able to like win events because they LL faster, like being one of the people that got 666 points on a hero versus one of the people that got like 1,000 points, like a shorter list means more prestige. And I think that's a little cool. I'm just saying.
Yeah, true. I need to get on that Bolton.
A little extra reward for sticking out that older hero and getting those points, you know?
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any thoughts about this change? Anything else that we haven't mentioned yet?
So I do have one. The day that we are recording this, before the podcast, I was so amped up to talk about Flesh and Blood that I appeared as a guest on the Table Pit again.
You fucking love that channel.
It's honestly, like, it's great.
I love that for you, honestly.
and Pit Against is a great little call-in show where I was brought on and we talked a little bit about these Living Legend changes. My hot take was that the 0.5 is actually bad for the game. And then, well, here's the thing. You gotta come in blazing. And then we all chill out, right? It's a hot take call-in show.
So true, so true.
I come in hot and then I'm like, yeah, my actual opinion's pretty milquetoast. Here's your thumbnail. Now we're moving on. But in the conversation, as we discuss some of the pitfalls of the system and the changes around it, we have said that this is a really good starting point for an adaptation and for continuing adaptation of the Living Legend system. The suggestion that we came to after a while of conversation was, what if this multiplier was only applied to PQs and RTNs? That way, callings, Pro Tours, Worlds all carry that prestige point total, and you don't have this random thing where like an old deck comes out of nowhere, gets one tournament, and then disappears from the format because they got like 300 points.
Like Syndra? Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, not Syndra. I'm saying like if all of a sudden a card is printed, someone keeps in their back pocket that it makes like Levia busted. They show up to Worlds, win Worlds on Levia, and everyone goes, holy shit, Levia is good again? Can I go play? Oh no, she got 300 points and she isn't legal anymore. That's really shitty.
Yeah.
Right? So like, but they do get that landmark win, but they get it right at the end. No one gets to play with that anymore. It'd be better if the big events stay without the multiplier, because then also you can have a new deck like Aurora come in or Zen, spike all these fucking callings, spike the Pro Tours, spike Worlds, and then they're at like 300 points and everyone's like, I'm sick of seeing this fucking thing at top tables, and they're not going anywhere. I think because the point totals are so much higher, the multiplier kind of has a bigger impact there on these flashpoint moments. But applying it to these PQs and RTNs means that when it's just sort of the popularity contest, as we discussed with Aurora, that's where we actually see the impact.
It is kind of wild to think that like one hero might get 100 LL points from Worlds and another hero could get 300 from Worlds. That's a huge difference.
Yeah. And we talked that was literally the exact thought that led to us discussing maybe this only gets applied to tier 2 events, not tier 3 and 4.
But that's so nuanced, Clark. I think LSS has to do a couple more iterations. Maybe in like 2029, we'll have that sort of a system.
I think we should let it ride out. I think we should see how it goes, and then we can start trying to apply some of these ideas.
That would be a cool change, I think, once we get more data.
Another thing that we discussed, this was a suggestion from Will, the main host, was 2 years of the 1 times multiplier. And so only after 2 years do you go to 1.5. So this gives 1 year to see the impact of a new hero, figure out bans, but also the ability to print support for the hero, because development cycle takes 1 year, right? Then you give the heroes not doing as well support. They have a 1.0 multiplier, and then you have a whole year of seeing how that did, and then the 1.5 starts, right? It's not like, oh, we printed the hero, oh, the hero's bad, let's figure out how to print support for them, give them support, and now they're getting 1.5 points, right?
Oh, so
thinking like Betsy log situation.
So you're saying like after 3 years, they get the 1.5?
Yeah, gotcha. Delay that a little bit longer so that LSS has more time to find places to print support for those heroes and get them in a position to be strong in the meta.
I think they may do that change because 2 years is not that long for...
Especially not in their development cycle, right?
Yeah.
They got to see and react to things before that really materializes.
All right. Well, I feel pretty good about that conversation. This is going to be something I'm keeping my eye on throughout Mastery Pack, whatever the last set is for the year, and especially 2026. Because I would be excited to see more exacting bans in the heat of a new meta.
Banned season is really fun. I'm gonna say it. I love seeing cards banned.
Me too.
Little meta shakeup, hell yeah.
Yeah, keeps it fresh. But for now, I think I'm gonna close this pitch off and move on to our Arsenal zone. Any objections?
This was a fun pitch, but I think it is time.
Yeah. Cool. I forgot, though. What is the Arsenal Zone?
Joel, the Arsenal Zone is a part of our podcast where we discuss a card we like, a card we hate, or a card we like to hate. So we just pick a card and then we talk about it.
Oh,
That's
cool.
how that works. We start with a Patreon submission. Because at our $5 tier, you can suggest a card for us to talk about and get some of your own thoughts onto the podcast.
Man, I wish I could join the Patreon.
You can!
You could
The
totally
link's in
join
the description!
You could totally join the Patreon.
I am so excited about this!
All right, well, let's go ahead and select a Patreon subscriber then. And it is... Dash roll noise. Aussie Pepper! Woo!
I think was he our first?
He might have been one of our. Well, I know he was one of the first. I don't know if he was exactly the first.
Wow.
I think he was the first Patreon subscriber.
Well,
Yeah.
we will fact check that later.
My boyfriend was really mad that he was not the first Patreon subscriber.
Then it was probably Aussie Pepper. So thank you, Aussie Pepper, for not only being our submission for the day, but also for being our very first Patreon subscriber. You're a real homie. So Aussie Pepper wanted to talk about Fool's Gold.
Fool's Gold is a yellow generic resource that doesn't block, no cost, no attack value, just pitches for 2. But when it is discarded, you create a gold token.
Ooh, that's interesting.
And Aussie Pepper had this to say about Fool's Gold. This might be a trap, but it's probably a trap I'll fall in once I go back to Kasai. He's a seasoned warrior player, such as myself. I don't know if it's worth running trade-in and rally the rearguard in Kasai. Is it worth it to make Fool's Gold work on my terms rather than keeping it in hand for when my opponent makes me discard? But it could be good. And I think I agree for the most part. It's a really interesting card. It's not something that gets any benefit outside of creating the gold. Like, for instance, there's another card that's a 6 power that, when discarded, gives a gold token, which would be great in Rhinar. But maybe it just creating a gold token on being discarded is good enough for Kasai. I think she has a lot of tools that have come out of the set, so I'm very interested in seeing what people do with Fool's Gold, certainly. So thank you once again, Aussie Pepper, for submitting. And for those of you who had a really cool card that you wanted to mention on the podcast, keep submitting. We do random draws every single episode, and one of these days we'll talk about your card in great detail. And with that being said, Clark, what do you got for us?
So, I've been playing a ton of Flesh and Blood recently. And the Flesh and Blood that I have been playing has been very focused around Victor, but I've been talking about Victor for a while now. I think I'm going to throw a big curveball.
Ooh.
And I'm going to talk about a class I do not play.
Oh.
In fact, a class. No, I have played it before. I was going to talk about a wizard card. I was going to talk about Null Shock because I fucking lost to it against Kosei's a fucking Acilio.
He's a fucking
Bro,
mess.
he is! So Null Shock is a majestic yellow instant. It is 1 cost. So it's got 2 sides to it. It has the, on the right side of the card, there is Shock. It is a lightning instant card that deals 1 arcane damage, and on the other side is Null, which lets you negate a target instant, which is a pretty nice little effect. This is a really interesting card in Acilio, mostly because you just use it for instant speed shock. Yeah, Null Shock.
Yay for wizard shenanigans.
Joel, what about you?
So for my card, I wanted to talk about Escalate Bloodshed, which is a newly revealed card as of today. May 22nd. And it's a warrior instant aura, red pitch, 0 cost, and it says whenever a hero draws a card during an action phase, they lose 1 life. And at the beginning of each hero's action phase, they draw a card. And then at the beginning of each hero's end phase, if a weapon did not attack this turn, destroy this. And I've been having some mixed feelings about this card. Mostly I think it's bait. LSS has been on this kick lately for printing cards that are only good versus other warriors that are printed in Warrior. And I think this card is a little weird to fully use because for every turn that you get benefits off of it, your opponent gets an additional 6 card hand if they keep every card in their hand. And for the most part, every class does more damage than Warrior with a 5 or 6 card hand, and will also just block you out if they have extra cards in hand that they don't need. And I think really only Kasai can use this, but I think she uses Sudo Secrets a lot better, in addition to the Draw Swords line and some of the zero cost go again. So I think there's a lot of testing that needs to be done with this card specifically. Could also be really good in Fang, but for the most part, pretty mid on it so far, but I'm going to chew on it a little bit. But yeah, that's my card. Fuzzy, what do you got for us?
I have been so excited that like LSS has locked Katsu in a cage for the longest time. They took away Art of War. They took away Bonds of Ancestry. And they were like, oh, what if we print this 0-for-4 Gustwave card that's pretty bad? Or this Retrace the Past card that's pretty good, but you don't have Bonds of Ancestry. So like, what's the most that you're going to do with Retrace the Past? And we were doing some fun things. But then they were like, Katsu can have Bonds of Ancestry. Here, Katsu. Here's a sock, right? It's like, Master has given Katsu a sock. Katsu is free. So I've been playing lots and lots of games on Talishar when I'm supposed to be grading papers, and it's really fun. He has Retrace the Past and Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, so any turn you can just fucking pop off, and Retrace the Past is really cool because it's the only Surging Strike that you can tutor. Like, being able to tutor a Surging Strike into whatever else you wanted, into Bonds of Ancestry, like, gives you some really wacky lines where you would like start with some weird ass card and then like randomly give it go again into Bonds, into Retrace the Past with another Gust Wave off of the Lynx, and like suddenly it's a Dishonor line. Oh, I'm going to be shouting out Surging Strike today because it's the only card I could find that I have 2 copies of that I can give out, because I always give out copies of the cards that I'm shouting out, but I just want this to be symbolic of like, hey, Katsu is fun again. You're not throwing by bringing him to an armory. You can win some games. And there are definitely some bad matchups that I think stop him from being top tier, but I could just be bad. Maybe like Katsu just needs a little bit of time to get figured out. I don't know.
I definitely don't think Katsu is suddenly top tier now that Bonds is back, but he is certainly playable.
Oh yeah, and it's really fun. So like try playing some Katsu games on Talishar.
Yeah.
I have brought 2 copies of Yellow Surging Strike, because Yellow Surging Strike is a very unassuming card that all of our Katsus are running. They're on 3 reds and 3 yellows. And 2 for 4 is really not that good, but it enables the entire rest of our deck. So we play it, and it's still kind of nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I'm going to sign a copy for each of you. 1 for you, and 1 for you.
Thank you, Fuzzy. Wow, big signature.
I had a lot of room.
Fuck, go again.
Cool. Well, I think that's the podcast, everyone.
Yeah.
Be sure to join our Discord because, well, actually, spoiler season's over, so you can join on the next spoiler season because that's the only place where you can get spoilers. And feel free to join our Patreon because, like I said, you can submit your Arsenal Zone suggestions to us, and we'll talk about them on the pod.
Yeah, you can play in Fuzzy's next big Crucible format, which I'm sure is going to be all sorts of pirate themed.
I'm going to have so much time to actually do pairings because I keep missing the pairings.
Yeah. All right. But yeah, I think that's it for us. So until next time, guys. Bye.
Don't forget to tell Fuzzy you want to buy a t-shirt at Nats. Bye-bye. Pitch It To Me podcast is hosted by Fuzzy Delp, Clark Moore, and Joel Recinos. Executive producer, Talon Stradley. Logistics coordinator, John Farkas. Music by Dillon Hulse. Logo by Han V. Sound mixing, Christopher Moore. And last but not least, you. Thank you for listening. Please give us a follow on your favorite social media platform at Pitch It To Me Podcast.